This is Dianne Andrews in Black and White. The issues you don't want to talk about. The arts and entertainment you need to know. And now here's your host, Dianne Andrews.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thanks for watching us in all over the state of Louisiana and in 5 counties in Mississippi. We really appreciate your viewership. And we also are on YouTube and Vimeo. Anyone who's listened to the news at all knows that Louisiana, specifically the Baton Rouge area, has been in turmoil over 3 things the last several months. First was the Alton Sterling shootings in July 5th this year. Then we had the 3 policemen who were murdered. Then we had the great unnamed flood. And if you keep up with us, you'll see the flood shows and you'll see all the shows. In fact, I even covered on location some of the Alton Sterling and also the police killings in Baton Rouge. So today we're going to talk about race, religion, and politics, and talk some about the police force. But I want to preference this, that Chief Davity has been on my show, and I think the first responders have to be treated fairly. I think they're bad apples in every line of work, in every industry, but we have to take everything as a case-by-case basis. Abdulah Maflahi, I've interviewed previously. He is the owner of the Triple S store here in Baton Rouge, in the hood, where Alton Sterling was killed. And he'd never had a problem with Alton Sterling at all, at any time. And he'd been there since you've been here, I think, Abdullah.
He was there for like 2 years.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Next to
having me.
him, I have David Bass, who's from Centacor. I am on the board of Centacor. It's a substance dependency abuse center. He's come here, he's been here 3 years, and he's from Fort Worth, Texas, with a little stay in California, I think. Thanks for coming on short notice, David.
Thank you for having me.
On my left side, I have Attorney Joel Porter. Joel Porter graduated from Southern University in philosophy, I think, liberal arts. And then he went on to get a master's in divinity from New Orleans. So he was going, were you going down the route to be a religious person?
That's correct.
You were going to be what kind?
A minister.
You were going to be a minister. What
That's
religion?
correct. Baptist.
You were going to be a Baptist minister. That's a big well, no, maybe it's not too far from being a lawyer. A Baptist minister. He is a lawyer now. He graduated from Southern University Law School, and he is representing Abdulah Maflahi.
That's correct.
Next to him, people know Kathy, probably. Kathy Eames. She's written a book, Warrior for Justice, and a movie in production. I did a show on the movie with her, producer Cleve Bailey, and other people that were on that show. She also came on a show I did with our NAACP leader, Mike McConaughey, where Rachel Dole, a white woman who passed for black on the West Coast as the president of NAACP, who was married to a black man, and she posed as being a black woman who was a white woman. So that was a real sensational story. But today we're going to start off with just the facts of what happened on July 5th from Abdullah.
Well, on July 5th, was about around midnight when police rolled up into the parking lot, went straight towards Alton, and didn't stop to ask any questions or ask him anything. They just went and grabbed him and tried to throw him on top of a car.
Now, we have your store when I came out on location, so you can see the store on YouTube when I interviewed Abdullah several months ago. Now, Abdullah, did he have like a table that he set his CDs on? Is that what?
Yes, he has a table, and he usually have a stereo system that he plays some music out there.
Now, you told me that he had never carried a gun before until a month before because someone was trying to steal his CDs from him.
There was a lot of people, a lot of his friends that also sell CDs were also getting robbed in some areas, so he thought he wanted, it would be a good idea to protect himself.
Right. And we all know that, and every media outlet has said that he was a convicted felon, but we need to look at this and what happened that day. It has nothing to do with what he already served his time for. As any American citizen should be treated that way. But now let's talk about your rights, how you were treated that day, and then we'll talk to your attorney.
They violated my rights. They threw me in the back seat of a car. I was unable to go inside my store. I was unable to use the bathroom.
This is after they
After the shooting.
Alton Sterling was shot.
Yes. I was unable to even get a bottle of water from inside the store for 4 hours, and it was in the back of a hot police.
In July in Baton
car.
Rouge?
Yes.
With windows closed?
With windows closed. I mean, they had.
Were they in there with you?
No, nobody was in there with me. They had the AC on, but it's all
Yeah.
glass and nothing was coming to
No
me.
air ventilation,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And did they say why?
They said I was a witness.
But weren't there other people out there that were witnesses also?
Yes, they also threw them in the backseat of different cars. They all
Oh, it was
separated
other
us.
people that they
Yes,
put. Are they suing the police department also, and Attorney Porter? Are
They have
suing?
not taken any legal action as of yet. It's my understanding, I've spoken with two of their lawyers. They are being represented. They do have lawyers. So I would imagine in the near future, you probably will be, and I can't speak for them, but
Right.
I'm certain they have representation. They will be filing legal actions in the near future.
Because the two policemen, I think Blaine Soleimani and Howard Lakey or something, were the two that were on site who were involved in the actual shooting, and then two more came on. You all are suing 4 officers, the chief of police, Chief Dabney, and the Baton Rouge Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
Why would the chief be involved in that lawsuit when you're suing the department? Only because he's the manager kind of everybody.
He's the chief of police. He is the chief. He's responsible for supervision, for training. And if there's a problem with training, as certainly there was, given the fact of how Mr. Sterling was killed, he should be named in the lawsuit.
Okay, I could debate that and with you, but you're an attorney. We'll talk about this offline.
It's the proper way to file the suit.
Yeah.
The chief must be named.
Oh, okay. So that's just, I figured that's the way you would have to do it. Like if I sue a company, I'm going to sue the company and maybe the CEO of the company also.
But I've made specific allegations.
For wrongdoings.
I've made specific allegations against the chief
Really?
as pertains to training and supervision. He has the duty to properly train his officers. And when that is not done, when that is violated, well, then he has to be sued as well.
But he himself is not doing the training himself. Because, you know, Chief Dabney has been on my show, and I'm a proponent of the chief of police.
Once again, he's responsible.
Okay.
As a CEO,
Right.
is responsible
For the company and the
in a
employees.
corporation. Right now, we're seeing the CEO, Mr. Stump, is on the Hill right now, testifying about all these phony bank accounts that was created in Wells Fargo. He did not create those
Right.
2 million accounts.
But he's responsible
His
for that.
employees did.
Right.
He's responsible.
Right. Now, in a lawsuit like that, anybody, as you mentioned, Wells Fargo, if they win, the people who are suing, are they suing him personally for his money?
No, this would come from the chief.
Okay.
I mean, from the city of Baton Rouge.
Okay, for the chief, but Wells Fargo, where would theirs come from? I'm just wondering.
It will come from Wells
from the
Fargo.
Bank, from the bank system. Okay. So let's go on, continue. So you were not allowed. You were 4 hours there, and I understand you had to use the bathroom. What did you do?
Knocked on the window. Cop approached. I told him I needed to use the bathroom.
Which one was it? Was it Blaine or was it?
No, it was a different cop that was on the scene
okay.
over there. He went and talked to, I think, a detective or something, and he came back to me and told me, I can't let you back in the store, but we'll go around the building somewhere. Well, it was a neighboring building, and you could go there.
And you were not a suspect of anything?
No.
They told you you're not a suspect, you were just a witness?
I was a witness. They told me, I was like, what's going on? Why am I in here? And they're like, you're a witness. And I told them, it's pretty hot in the car. Can I stand by the car? I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
They're like, no.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, I can tell you their reason for it. And let me pick up on what Mr. Maflahi said. Mr. Maflahi was not accused of an offense. He was not under investigation. He was a witness to a killing. The last time I checked, this is America, where innocent individuals, even criminals, have rights. The fact that this man was not accused of any offense, this is not North Korea where we just pull people off the street and illegally arrest them.
But as he said, not just him, it was everybody who was a witness, right?
Absolutely.
We're talking 10 people, maybe.
I know there were 2 other female witnesses that were out there that was also apprehended, also arrested, illegally detained.
What do you think of this, David?
I mean, I can't really comment on anything that I wasn't present for,
Right.
but I'm very proud of all the men and women who choose to serve behind the badge, especially in a time in America when it is under intense scrutiny.
Right.
I'm pro-police. I'm extremely pro-reform. At no point in our society should you violate someone's inalienable right to jurisprudence, to be interviewed. I myself, just speaking from my own cases, I've been pulled off to the side and interviewed, and they've given me their card, and they say, well, you know, we'll contact you if we need you further. And that's how I was treated as a witness in the Dallas Police District in Texas. I've had no problems. I have several friends on the force here in the Baton Rouge area, but you know what it sounds like. You know, I mean, it sounds like there's definitely an issue there.
Yeah, I did the police killings, and I said there are problems on both sides.
Always.
We have problems in the black community, we have problems in the white community, we have problems in the police. People are people.
Oh boy.
People have problems, people do wrong things, people do bad things, people do good things. Let me get Kathy's perception. Now, last year, 990 people were killed by policemen. And 495 were white, 250 were black, and then I think about 170 were Hispanic, and then other. So we don't ever see when the white guy, and I'm going to have a tape of a guy in Fresno, California, being shot unarmed, that's going to play and be seen, a picture will be seen of that in Fresno this year.
11, subject cease weakening, reaching for his waistband. Lay down on the ground! Lay down!
On the ground! Fresno Police Department, get down on the ground! Get up, dog.
Let the dog go. Let me see your hands. Good. Stop. Stop
Get
weakening.
down on the ground now!
Stop.
Get down on the ground now! Get on the ground!
Stop.
Fresno Police Department! Drop whatever you have in your hand.
Drop.
Come forward, you're gonna get shot, man. Get
Stop.
down on the ground now!
Get your hands up.
Let me see your hand.
Hey, get your hands up.
Dude,
Don't reach for your hands.
quit reaching for what you got. Keep your hands out.
Keep your hands up.
Dude, if you reach.
This year we've already killed, police have killed 708. Now some of those, you know, you shooting at me, I'm shooting at you, you know, and you got to shoot back, right? We all agree to that. The problem I think we have in America is unarmed shootings. From my readings, in the Washington Post did studies on this, and you can look this up, 4% of all shootings are done against unarmed men. And I want to read what you know better than me, and I didn't know this, but I do want to read the Graham Connor ruling in 1989 from the Supreme Court that I was doing my investigation, and Graham versus Connor, the Supreme Court ruled lethal force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene rather than the 20/20 vision of hindsight. So everything we're doing is hindsight. When you're there in that split second,
Absolutely.
I don't know what I would do if I'm afraid, like the white lady, Officer Shelby, and when the guy had his hands up walking away from her. Her husband is also a police officer who was in that helicopter. He was one of the people in the helicopter. There was a helicopter above them. But this, to me, makes it very difficult to prosecute a policeman with that ruling from the Supreme Court in 1989. What do you think, Kathy?
What else would you rule?
Yeah.
What other language can they use? Because an officer in a critical situation like that. Now, I'm not saying if a man is walking away from you with his hands up, I don't think there's anyone with any reasonable sense of presence would shoot. I can't understand.
I don't know if
for
she
example,
choked or whatever.
how can people
You know, she's been
reasonably?
indicted. We do know that. You know, she has been indicted. Yeah, she's indicted.
And that
In
was
Tulsa.
appropriate.
That's right.
That's appropriate.
That's right. 20%
But if
of all
anyone
police
is
shootings are
running
indicted.
or has his back turned to you and is leaving the scene, I mean, if you have a serial killer that you know has killed several people and he is fleeing,
Right.
I can see maybe shooting someone like that because you can't afford to let someone like that get away and kill again.
Right.
But in these questionable situations,
Yeah, now the car was in the middle of the street and she was going to another call is what I've read. And this car was parked between two lanes in the street, in the freeway. Now, she's supposed to be a drug expert, I've read in the police force, and she thought he was on PCP. But you can't think and kill people who are unarmed.
and you
There had to
don't,
be a better way to bring this
you
man
don't
down.
shoot people in the back.
Right.
They were not. He was not a threat.
Right. That one, well, they did the right thing.
They
She's
did.
indicted. That's
She
all
was
we can say
indicted,
for that
right.
one. Now, Mr. Vinson, Officer Vinson, over in Charlotte, who was a black officer who killed Kevin Lamont Scott. And he has not been indicted. What do you think of that one, Joel?
He probably will not be indicted. The problem that I see, and the only way we are going to curtail police, the illegal use of deadly force, let me say that, because there is a time when an officer must exercise deadly force.
Right.
Absolutely no question. When an officer's life is in danger, he must do what he has to do. I understand that.
Absolutely.
It's the questionable cases
Yeah.
that I'm communicating about, okay? I believe if we are going to curtail those types of the illegal use of deadly force in this country, there must be structural changes on how these cases are investigated, how they are indicted, and how they are ultimately brought to trial.
See, I
And
think you go back even before that,
Well,
Attorney Porter. I
agreed.
think the training and some of these people should probably not even be policemen.
Agreed, absolutely agree
Right,
with you,
the
but,
wrong
but,
people.
but even then, the few times that police officers have been indicted,
20% are indicted.
the few times, there even a less possibility of them being convicted. And
Right. Now,
because
that's a small number.
There is a certain segment of society that feels that a cop can do no wrong, and that's sad.
And this Supreme Court ruling enables them to do it in the legal system. When we
Correct.
talk about all these things, maybe people should be trying to change this ruling in
And,
1989.
and that's why I said, Diane, there must be structural changes. And when I say structural changes, I'm talking about transformative changes on how these cases are handled. I think we need a justice system that deals strictly with police brutality cases, excessive use of force, and the illegal use of deadly force. I think we, sort of like the way we do with military courts, when a person in the military is convicted,
before a
charged
tribunal.
with a crime, they have the UCMJ, they have criminal codes, and they are convicted by, or they are tried in, before a court of military individuals. I think we
Of
need
their
some-
peers, right? Aren't
Of
they
their
their
peers.
peers?
I think we need something similar, and they still have the constitutional protections. I believe that we need to create something similar to that, where we have a whole new justice system involved, given the fact that the system is failing. It is failing.
But let me tell you what I don't like, Joel. When I look at the numbers, 990 killed, and when you add white and Hispanic, it's double, almost triple the number of blacks. When you see a white guy who was killed by a policeman, you don't see it. You got to find it on YouTube somewhere, an unarmed white person. When an unarmed Hispanic, which they kill more in California, Hispanics than anybody.
Absolutely.
You never hear about that. In Texas, they kill more than they do black. Now, 29 have been killed last year in Louisiana. 11 white, 14 black. But Arkansas, they killed 5 people. I'm not making anybody's life small, but just look at the scale of the economy. Mississippi, they killed 8. Is there something wrong here?
Well, the news media can only carry and can only cover so much every day. I mean, we are limited.
You don't think they want
that
maybe
sense.
a black-white race ride because white people, I guarantee you 80% of the people out there marching don't know these numbers. And they don't know how many unarmed whites, how many unarmed Hispanics have been killed. They think, oh my God, they're just slaughtering black people. I'm not saying they're not, but they may be slaughtering some of everybody else too, or they may not be slaughtering at all.
Well, I think
Except some.
I also think we need to be accurate. And James Comey, the director of the FBI, said this recently.
Who said that Hillary Clinton she didn't need to be investigated anymore?
I'm not going to.
That's James Comey.
I'm not going to even go there.
Yeah.
But first of all, we don't even have the numbers. The reporting is not there. So the study that was done by the Washington Post was limited by the data that has been collected.
But I looked at several other websites, and they all are around 1,000.
But that's
killed.
of the ones that are reported.
Right.
There need to be mandatory reporting by every local law enforcement agency
But what
in the
can we
nation.
do about training? What do you think, David, we should do on training of the police and the hiring process? Because we know in Ohio, the man who, to me, murdered Tamar Rice, the 12-year-old playing with a play gun, and he jumps out of his car and shoots him dead. And he had problems down South Ohio, and they didn't fire him, but they let him go. And if you read what they said about him, they said he did not handle weapons well. He did not take orders well. It was almost like, I'm not saying it was cognitive, but it seemed to be something missing there. And his may not have been just black-white little boy, but a black woman had called it in and said a little black boy is playing, nobody was in the park but him. In a big park, he lived across the street. And he's playing, running around playing with, because I do shows on every one of the black issues. And he was playing with the gun, and time that officer, I don't know if you saw, got out of the car, he just bam, bam, dead. He didn't say stop, put down your weapon, but let me tell you, if I had been that black woman, why do we call the police so much? If you see this little boy playing out there, and she said it's probably a toy, but that never got to the policeman. But why do we call? We do a lot of calling ourselves to the police, sometimes unnecessary. I would have had a black guy, she was across the street in Beauty Salon or something. I would have had somebody holler out my porch where he couldn't reach me if it was a gun and he was crazy. Put that down, and what are you doing? What are you playing? Couldn't we try a little bit first? We're the first people to complain, but we also a lot of times the first to call.
Well,
like supposedly they did on Alton Sterling, which we don't know if it was or not.
See, I think the problem that we have, there's a lot of killing on every single side.
Yeah.
The media, anything out there, they love a good story. Okay. And it's not that the media, piggybacking on what you said that. What was it that the media only has so much to report? Then why choose to report the absolute worst all the time?
And black white is
they
always
select those stories. And I have friends that work in the media.
Ratings.
It's about ratings.
That's what it's about.
When we stop to sensationalize our brothers and sisters dying in America, then we can start to get the heart of the problem, which, as you said, is training. There needs to be heavy psychological evaluation, and I think there needs to be third-party oversight, much like you have internal affairs, that goes and prosecutes these people on a case-by-case basis. Because, without police, there would be people running in this door right now, ripping off every camera and everything you have.
I am a strong proponent of first
and like
responders.
I said, I've had more positive interactions in this city, with the EBR Sheriff's Office, who I work with. One of my good friends is a probation and parole officer, Officer Mark Myers. He's a fantastic individual. But a lot of this stuff going on, the unarmed killings, the sensationalism of it going on, I mean, I applaud him for pulling out and videotaping what was going on
your
immediately.
surveillance system. You never got it back, right?
No,
That's what I'm saying. You're a citizen. I'm a citizen. We need, as citizens, to go in there and hold people accountable and not be afraid.
And what about community policing? It was back in the 90s. Is it still active and alive in America? I read, or someone said
I grew up in the 80s. There was a lot of community policing, a lot of
involvement. Yeah, and they said a lot of it funds have been cut for it in the last 6 years.
The only thing I see are cops on campus that police students.
We're probably, if you know the people, you probably would go to the person and say, man, what are you doing? Because they become friends. But I'm going to tell you, I've heard Chief Davitt, I've heard Chief Knapp, who used to be on my show a lot from Baker. I've heard the Dallas police chief, one of the best in the country. I've heard them ask black people to become policemen. I've heard Chief in some of my shows, Chief Knapp's, and, oh no, I don't want to be a policeman. So we have got to step up to the plate also, on our side.
You know how much
whether you're black or white with problems or Hispanic.
You know how much of an impact that community policing makes?
A big impact.
I'm 38 years old. I still remember Officer Newberry
still
of the
know his
Bedford
name.
Police.
And that's the key.
Because he came up to me, and I distinctly remember him letting me go home on some days when I shouldn't have gone home. We'll leave it at that. And I still remember that man.
We're going to have to cut this short. A final word from you, Kathy?
I think part of what we're seeing now is violence is feeding on violence. When you have the rioting, etc., behind an unarmed shooting, then what happens is the media jumps on the next one and publicizes it even more.
Especially if it's black-white. It seems to be worse if it's black-white.
So it's the public has a misconception.
They really
I think
do.
a very strong misconception.
If I asked somebody, I asked a cousin of mine in California, and I wouldn't be so close to the figures if I didn't do the series on Black, White, Blue Lives Matter. And they said, what do they kill, about 3,000, 4,000 blacks a year? I said, why don't you try 250? And 250 is too many, don't get me wrong, too much. Yeah, unless there's an armed combat going on or something specifically, you know, that caused you to kill this person. But the public does not have any figure and any idea as a whole. You do, you're an attorney.
Yeah.
And but they don't understand this at all, because the media, just like I said, I always tell my friends, if someone's in the welfare line, you see this black woman with a baby in her hand, one in her stomach, and one hanging to her dress in the back. And black people are not the majority of the welfare system. We're almost 13% of the population, and some of us do work, a lot of us. And we have good jobs. In fact, our GDP is the same size as Canada if you put all black people together. But I will tell you a problem that we have, I think, is we need to do more to get back into the community ourselves and start pulling people up instead of looking back but not pulling back up to where we are. We have some problems too with, you know, when a woman raises a child, 70% of them alone, and she's a teenager, that's a problem. How do you do it, right?
Well, I'll agree.
And don't get me wrong, there are strong women who do it.
Absolutely.
But as a whole, God created it to be a two-person system. It took two to create them. It probably takes two to raise them in most cases. So, Abdullah, what would you like to say? You just feel, and I definitely see what you're saying and what you filed, that have they said anything about giving him his $20,000 worth of surveillance back?
Absolutely, not as of yet. I mean, the case basically is...
It's evidence is what they're saying.
Well, if you have a lawsuit filed, they're going to keep it. I mean, it's their own protection.
Well, there's a criminal
But
investigation.
he's got to pay $20,000 to get himself another surveillance system. And one thing I wanted to say also, you know, I do shows Muslims, Hindu, transgender, atheists. I've done it all. Pentecostal, Baptist, Catholic, everybody. I do religious roundtables. I even had an atheist debate, Black Baptist men or white atheists, and I had a gay young white guy debate a Black Baptist minister. Those are good shows out there on YouTube. But I just don't. I wanted to say it's such a tribute to Abdullah. He has come into the black community, and that's the hood over there. You know, what we call the hood. And you have integrated yourself in. I was with him at the store. People, hey Abdullah, how you doing? Hey, how's your daughter? You know, he knows instead of what sometimes we feel like other nationalities, other religions come in and they think they're better than where they are. And they don't speak, and they don't become a part of the community.
Nobody's better than anybody.
That's right.
We're all equal.
You're a Shia Muslim, right?
I'm Sunni Muslim.
So, I had a Shia come in from Baghdad, ISIS burner. I do ISIS shows. He flew in with Dale Brown on my show. The Shia Muslim, he's from Baghdad, come on my show. Which is, we can get into that one longer. So we're gonna have to start wrapping it up. Is there maybe a quick, oh no, can't even do you a quick statement. You also, everybody, watch Dianne Andrews in black and white. Thank you.